Well, welcome to High School Sports on the Hartford Cable Network. I'm Don Morrison. Tonight, my pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's a little rainy, a little misty, but the temperature's okay. We're at Aberdeen High School. Don't go wrong, though. It's not Aberdeen playing. It's Fallston versus Patterson Mill. The Patterson Mill field is being repaired, or actually rebuilt, and so Patterson Mill is playing its home games away this year, all their home games. Chris Hoover, coach of the Fallston Cougars. If I say you're the second-year head coach of Fallston, people will say, wait, I remember Chris way back. Tell me about it. You coached for many years at Fallston.
Yeah, this is my 14th season at Fallston High School. Took a little break to go to college and watch my daughters play, and took a little respite of going into Bel Air High School and coaching with my good friend Dominic Rose.
Yeah, he is a great guy. Now, looking at your team this year, you're off to a semi-start, 5-6. It's not terrible, but as Fallston standards go, it's not where you want to be.
No, it's not where we want to be, but we try to schedule a tough non-conference schedule so that we're ready for the postseason. Hopefully, to give ourselves a chance to, like Wes, and get a run at the States.
Yeah. Looking at your ball club, is it an offensive team, a defensive team? What kind of strategy do you employ?
We really look to possess the ball to kind of exploit opportunities. So tonight, with it being rainy, we're going to look to keep the ball on our foot and find our width and hopefully open up some holes to get some guys to run through on.
We were talking about this turf field, and it is a beautiful field, but on turf when it's wet, does that present a special problem?
Well, the good thing is all these guys play so much club and we train on the fields that a little bit of rain isn't a big deal, but you do have to make some extra, cautions to make sure that you're not getting the ball slipping by you and, making mistakes where the other team can capitalize.
You talked about possessing the ball. Is that the key to the game?
I think it really is. I think keeping the ball on our foot, keeping it away from Wes's dangerous players, I think that's going to be the big key for us.
Now, Chris, I do have to question your sanity. You took on the athletic director job this year. You're a full-time teacher. You're coaching soccer. Are you just like a masochist? What's going on?
It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, and I'm not going to kid you. Some nights I go home with a little bit of a headache, but it's terrific to be part of all the teams, and that's the best part. And we have a great group of kids at Fallston High School. They come to support us, and we move to, it's been a great experience for me so far.
Well, very good. Hang with me here. I'm going to turn and talk to Wes Rich. Wes, a home game tonight, but you know that only because you're listed as the home team. Yep. Playing at Aberdeen, you're the Road Warriors this year. How's that been?
Yeah, it's been more of a struggle than I thought, just because we're always getting home late. The kids are asking, what uniforms we bring. We don't have as many students at the games, as we would if it was at Patterson Mill. But when it comes down to it, it's still 11 on 11 on a field, and we're doing the best we can.
I look at your record over the past 4 years. You've either been in the state finals or at last year won the state championship. Let's talk about that first. The ultimate prize. How did it feel to win the state title?
It was a great team and a great run, and a really good senior class that had, a lot of those kids had been on varsity for 3 years, and I got to know them a little bit differently than kids that are on for a year or two, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Especially since you were so close for the last couple of years and then finally broke through last year. Had to be really sort of a weight off your shoulders, but then the ultimate prize as well.
Yeah, it was great. The year before, we had a close one with Sparrows Point, 1-goal game, and that was their goal, the kids' goal from day one, and it was a great season.
And talk about last year. I know Chris doesn't want to hear this, but 7-4, you defeated Fallston last year. First time in the history of Patterson Mill School that you defeated Fallston. That had to feel pretty good as well.
Yeah, that was, it was the only team in Hartford County we hadn't beaten, and usually it's a tight game, but they'd always pulled out. And early in the season, or early in the career, of our school, it was 4, 5, 6-0 games. So we worked hard, and it was a great game for us. So.
I look at your record, and you're the only coach that Patterson Mill has ever known in terms of soccer. Opened the program in, 2005 or whenever it was?
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah, and so how does it feel to be the architect of the soccer program?
It's great, because I can kind of do what I want, and I like to get involved with the JV program as well, and, get to know the freshmen, sophomores, when they're playing at that level, and it's been great. It's been great.
Wes, I look at last year, 25-3 if you combine the records of the varsity and the JV. Wow, that has to speak, even though you lost 15 players, it has to speak highly of you that you've got a lot of JV players coming up.
Yeah, last year's JV team was, freshman heavy, and so we've got 9 of those kids as sophomores playing on the varsity team this year, and they're holding their own. We're still trying to figure out our identity, with so many new kids in different positions. But it's a work in progress. We'll see how tonight goes.
I look at Jake Bechtel, your junior defenseman. The first game he ever lost as a soccer player in high school was earlier this year, so he had never lost on the JV.
Yeah, no, his the two JV teams when he was a freshman sophomore both didn't lose a game, and then he came up at the end of the year last year, and we had a great run and won the state title, and so. Yeah, he lost his first game this year. It was bound to happen. But
I asked Chris about the key to tonight's game. What do you see playing on this wet field? What is the key?
I think the key anytime you play Fallston is you got to capitalize on your chances because you're not going to get many. And so we got to shoot a higher shooting percentage than we have been. We got to keep an eye on Mayo because he can take over a game. And, that's a kid I've seen play for a long time. And I think ever since he was 10, he could rip shots, and that hasn't changed. So I'll have to keep an eye on him and see how it goes.
It should be fun. Fallston versus Patterson Mill. It's a battle in the Chesapeake division of boys soccer. The winner tonight can move on. The loser, well, it's going to be a tough year since they have to build on tonight's victory or the loss, whatever it might be. So stay tuned. It should be a great one. Fallston versus Patterson Mill. We'll be right back with the beginning of the game. Well, welcome into Aberdeen High School. Don Morrison, along with my partner Bob Frisch. Bob, we don't want to confuse people. We're at Aberdeen High School, but it's Patterson Mill, the home team, versus the visiting Fallston Cougars. Let me ask you, they're road warriors. We're talking about Patterson Mill. They're a very young team. Does that create an extra problem for West Rich trying to get his team acclimated playing on the road every night?
It's a little bit of a burden. You're used to, playing on your own field. You have less time to travel, more time to focus, and but the reality is the boys play soccer, and they play. Most of these kids play on multiple teams, club teams, so they're used to playing in different venues. So I really don't think it'd be much of a problem.
Now let's talk about playing on the field, a turf field, which is of course where you want to play. There's no bad hops, you have good footing, but it's a very slick field because of the rain. It's been raining all day, sort of a misty rain as it is right now. Temperature is probably in the low 60s, probably going to decline into the 50s before the night is over. Does that present a problem?
Only in a sense that I think the ball has a tendency to skip a little bit. It'll still roll. You'll still get true bounces. And I think in particular the goalies are going to have to be very careful.
Yeah. Hey, the black-shirted Patterson Mill Huskies, they are the home team. And the white outfit, that's Fallston, white with the orange trim. Fallston Cougars coming in at 4-5 on the year. They're 1-3 in the Chesapeake. Meanwhile, Patterson Mill 0-3 in the Chesapeake. They're 2-6 overall. Those records are not where either team Bob wants to be, especially when you look at Patterson Mill. Over the last 4 years, they've either been in the state finals, losing in the semifinals, or like last year, winning the state finals, topping Loch Raven. So that was a senior-laden team, a lot of graduates, 15 players gone, either by graduation or transfer. You're starting all over at Patterson Mill.
Yeah, it's going to be a building process, but I think you saw that early on, that those teams had played together for quite some time, so they understood each other, they knew where they were going, and they worked to get there to the final and eventually won it. Now he's starting over the new group. You have so many freshmen and sophomores that'll be playing up on this team, and that'll give them the opportunity to play together for several years and really form a cohesive group. 40-minute halves. We're about a minute and a half into the game. No scores you can see. The Patterson Mill Huskies going from right to left on your TV screen, and Fallston left to right. Give you that starting lineup for Fallston, or I should say let's talk Fallston first. Christo Hondrianis. And we have a goal just as we got ready to talk about it. The goal goes in, and let's see if we can find who made that goal for Patterson Mill. And right away, here comes the replay. Right away, you can see what's happening on that slick field.
Goal scored by number 25, Cameron Dawson.
Cameron Dawson with that goal. Number 25, he's a first-year player. You'll see him come down. The defender slips down, and the ball right past the goalie into the net, and the 1-0 lead. We're just about 38-34, about a minute and a half into this game. Our first goal is scored.
Now Dawson is a midfielder, and if you watch the replay, you could see him take advantage of the opportunity for a ball that was loose in the box, and he pressed forward very quickly from his midfield position and was able to strike the ball with some real authority and get it into the net.
We're talking about Patterson Mill winning their first game against Fallston in the history of the school. Now that dates back to 2007. So we're talking, 12 years they finally broke through and won. They would certainly like to start a winning streak here tonight. Meanwhile, the Cougars looking to regroup. we talked about being rebuilding teams, Bob, but if you're a senior on a team, there's no rebuilding. This is your year, so you want to go out on top. You don't want to have your junior class being much better than you were as seniors.
Well, I think it becomes a different role then for the seniors. They become the leadership.
Yeah.
They become those who set the standard for those who are behind them. So while you may not be as competitive, and maybe your run isn't quite as deep into the playoffs as you would normally like to see, they have a very significant responsibility to help build that program, maintain that high quality of play.
We started talking about the starting lineup. Christo Hondrianis, he is number 10 for Fallston. Also in the front line, Will Mayo, number 8. And there's another shot and another goal. So quickly, with 37-33, just like that, it is 2-0 Patterson Mill. Wow. That left-footed shot came from point-blank range. How did he get so free, Bob, in that scoring zone?
Well, it looks as if the defense is maybe a little bit tentative, and they're not closing in on the ball quite as quickly.
Pardon me, Bob. Ethan Schultz, you'll see scoring the goal, number 17. And there it is. The left-foot goal just goes right by goalie Kaysen Donahue.
Yeah, I think what we saw there was a failure to actually and adequately clear the ball, which left the opportunity. I think when you were speaking to the coaches early in the before the broadcast, is that that was one of the things that the Huskies coach said, was that there won't be many opportunities against Fallston, and that they needed to take advantage of the ones they got, and so far they have.
Yeah, we've got 2 players on the starting lineup so far for Fallston, so let's try to get them in if we can. Brendan Mudd, number 19, also on the forward line. Drew Mangus, he's number 13, a junior. Number 3 is Chris Lahat. Lahat with 3 assists on the year. His 3rd year, a 4.87 GPA student is Lahat. Logan Mullaney is the center halfback. He's number 14. Ben Armstrong, number 9, and Ryan Ward at number 6, along with Mitchell Street, number 7, and Noah Lumpkin, one of the captains, a 3-year player. They are the backfield area. And Kaysen Donahue, the sophomore goalie with 81 saves, but he's been under fire already, Bob, today.
Yeah, I hope that the defense begins to step up a little quicker on those clearance balls. Otherwise, we might have a long day.
Yeah, because his opportunity to save the ball has been very limited because they've been like point-blank shots. Speaking of Patterson Mill, I'll give you their starting lineup. Dylan Goff is number 2. He's a sophomore striker, along with Christian Schertzer, number 4. Saved there by Donahue. That had been a goal while I'm introducing the team. We'd have really had something. It's about 4 minutes into the game. 17, Ethan Schultz, who scored that last goal. He's a senior. Cameron Dawson, who also scored a goal, the first goal, sophomore. Eric Nutzling is the other halfback, along with Brendan Kajewski. He is number 20, the sophomore. Brian Pickard, Reggie King, Travis Karwatka, and Jake Bechtel, number 6, 3, 24, and 13 across the back line. Ryan Frankus, the sophomore goalie. So, Bob, sophomore goalies in both cases. Certainly that's not, as a coach, a very, let's say, comforting thought to have young goalies.
Well, they can look at that 2 ways. The fact is
look at this play. And it goes in. Beating the goalie to the shot is the young man from Patterson Mill. Let's pick up his number. The goalie came out. Donahue came out too late. And a great little left-handed push shot over top of the goalie. And it's now just like that, 3-0 with 35-25.
Yeah, I think what you saw was
here's the replay.
Husky goal scored by number 2, Dylan Goff.
That goal by Dylan Goff, number 2. You'll see he gets the ball here, beats the defender, and then the goalie comes out just a little bit late, and he's able to loft it over his head with 35-25. So the goal by Goff, it's now 3-0.
Actually, that was a nice touch by the offensive player. He didn't panic. He saw he had space before the keeper got out to him, and he was very deft in his flick of the ball on and move up to get it into the goal.
Bob, you talk about 2 evenly matched teams, which these are, at least on paper, to score 3 goals in a period of less than 4 minutes or a little over 4 minutes. That's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen, again, 2 teams that were not, let's say, one better than the other, that much better than the other, to have those 3 goals scored so quickly.
It's not uncommon to see that the first 5 minutes of goal really sets the pace. 5 minutes of the game sets the pace for the entire game.
There's the first attempt on goal by Fallston. That would be good if it's football, but in soccer it doesn't count for anything except the other team gets the ball.
Both teams will usually try to impress their style and their determination on their opponent in the first 5 minutes of the game. You'll see that coaches will say the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of each half are very critical.
Well, Bob Frisch, let me ask you, if you are Chris Hoover, you're down 3-0. I mean, what do you tell your team? What can you do as Fallston to regroup here down those 3 goals so early?
Don't panic. There's still a lot of time to play in this game. And as long as you continue to do what you've been trained to do and you chip away at it at 1 goal at a time, you can recover.
Very good point, yeah. You're down 3-0. If you make it 3-1, 3-2, something like that, then it's a game again. What you can't allow happen, Bob, obviously, is to have Patterson Mill score again here. Then the route could be on. All the way through and fielded by the goalie, Kason Donahue. Again, we talked to the coaches about that's where you have to be careful on a slick field. That ball could take that weird little English bounce and go right by the goalie.
It's important for the goalies to get down and stay down so that we don't have the balls slipping through the legs or through the side.
Almost another breakaway there, getting through. Looked like, is that number 11 for? Yeah, that was maybe that was Schultz. So you can see his number here. Yeah, number 17, Schultz, who almost got a breakthrough. We talked to shortstops, us baseball coaches, about getting down, getting the butt low to the ground, and you're seeing the ball into your glove. I guess, Bob, it's a similar technique for soccer players, only in this case it's the foot.
Yeah, it's the same thing you see in hockey. Yeah. How many times do you see the puck go through the 5-hole, through the legs, and what do they say? Get down low and get that stick down in front.
Here comes Patterson Mill, still on the attack. Fallston's had maybe that 1 attempt on goal, and that was not a really close one. It was a long shot that went over the crossbars. So right now it is Patterson Mill dominating this contest. Bob, a chance to talk about the officials. I know you know both of them.
Yes, I've had an opportunity to work with these officials before, a very experienced crew. On the far side, we have Rick Lorentz. Rick has been for a long time. He officiates college ball as well and has done many of the club level tournaments at high level skill sets. And so I'm confident that we'll have an excellent officiating game.
Got one man to beat. Nice defensive play there. That's a good job by the defender. See if we can pick up his number. It could be Noah Lumpkin, the captain, 3-year captain, who made that defensive play. Talk about the coaches too. Chris Hoover, we mentioned his assistants, Marco Barassi and Stash Zebran. Barassi played for Chris Hoover those many years ago, his first year as head coach, and we're talking about Chris Hoover's been at it more than 20 years. Has a lifetime record with Fallston of 174, 59, and 10. Bob, that's a pretty good record.
Sure is, and it's a testament to the fact that he maintains a quality program throughout his tenure.
Teaching 25 years, 24 years at Fallston, American Government, Law, and America this year. Athletic director, he took over for Dave Seski, the only athletic director the school had ever known, who retired after, because he went there, I guess, in 1977. So my math is not real good, but that's 40 years or more.
Long time.
Long time. Dave, we wish him well in retirement. But so you're teaching American American government and law, and you're coaching soccer, and you're being an athletic director. I asked him, you're a little bit crazy, or what's going on here? You have not enough to keep you busy? Their twin daughters, by the way, did graduate this past year, so he does have a little bit more time, not going to see his daughters playing in the various sports they played. Talk about Wes Rich. Now, Wes is the only coach that Patterson Mill has ever known. He opened the program in 2007, a lifetime record of 117, 65, and 5. Region champions in both 15 and 16, lost in the state semifinals both years. 2017 lost to Sparrows Point in the finals, and last year, Bob, the ultimate prize, the state championship, defeating Loch Raven by 3-0, and it just doesn't get any better than winning a state title.
No, that's quite an accomplishment, and the fact that his teams have been in it for several years shows the quality of the program, and that he's been able to develop quality players who've maintained a system that lets them succeed.
Absolutely, yeah. And Wes again is coaches and teaches there at Patterson Mill, and as does Chris Hoover. Two veteran coaches. They know each other well, and they, are friends off the field. I guess when the whistle blows to start the game, they're no longer great friends at that point. That's the way it should be.
Competitors always, friends frequently.
I remember Paul Metzger and Terry Colall, great friends. The late great Terry Colall, who coached soccer. Bob, you played for Paul at Edgewood, and they were the best of friends off the field. And on the field, you'd think they just hated each other because they were such competitors.
I remember competing in some of those games with Aberdeen, and it was always everybody at each other's throats. But we played the game honestly, fairly hard, but fair. And it was always a great challenge.
Paul Metzger, our partner in the golf matches, and he's done other things with it through the years, basketball, Hall of Fame member at Edgewood High School. And Paul's doing well. He's healthy and in good spirits, and so we're looking forward to seeing him at the Hall of Fame gathering as we tape this on a Thursday night that's occurring tomorrow, Friday, at Edgewood High School. I want to congratulate the 6 new members of the Hall of Fame at Edgewood. We'll have a chance to talk about them a little bit later. Here's Fallston down by that 3-0 score. About 7 minutes into the game, 28 left in the first half. How to play against Fallston. Nice little trickeration there by Pattersonville. It goes off the Fallston player. Out of bounds, and now it comes back to Fallston. Here's Mitchell Checkett. Let's see. Coming off the field now is number 19. That's Brendan Mudd, the sophomore, sitting down for a while. Nice big throw in, long throw in. Good range on that throw in by Ryan Ward. Well, you look for that, Bob, don't you, to have somebody who can toss that ball, 20, 30 yards and put it right where he wants to?
The throw-in is often underlooked as far as its importance. It's a serious offensive threat, especially the farther you get down into the
Fallston ball over the back.
Into the offensive end, and I've seen people athletes who've been able to throw the ball as far as anyone can kick it on the corner kick.
It's amazing, yeah. And of course you can't spin it. The officials look very closely at how you throw it in. There's a nice centering shot. Put into the offensive end. No capitalizing that time by Fallston. That was Christian Worthington in the game for Fallston, who threw that ball in, or kicked the ball in, I should say. Christian into the ball game, didn't start. Just a freshman is Christian Worthington. Well, we talked about that. You played on high school teams at Edgewood, and you played as a young person, you played as a senior. We talked about the difference between you reach your senior year, and that's when you hope that everything comes together like the Pattersonville seniors did last year.
Yeah, sort of the same situation is that the year I was a junior, we won the county championship. Actually, we were the first team to unseat North Hartford as county championships, and went on to play in the state playoffs. Setup was a little bit different then. You only had one champion from each county competing for the states.
Wow, so there wasn't 1A, 2A, or 3 or 4A?
No, it was just one team from each county. And so when I was senior, I was one of the few on the team, and it was sort of my responsibility to be the teacher and the guide and the mentor for some of our younger players.
That's a double responsibility. I mean, you're a youth yourself. You're 17, 18 years old, and yet you have the responsibility of being a student leader. But it does help develop your leadership capabilities, I would assume.
Well, I think we've got a lot of great leaders, young people out here on these fields. I've looked at some of the information the coaches provided to us leading up to today's game, and to look at the activities that so many of these athletes are involved in, the kinds of things that they're doing for their community, off the field, away from school, and the fact that many of them are just simply outstanding students. The GPAs, a significant number of them are over 4.0.
I'd look at Chris Lahat, the midfielder for Fallston, and a GPA of 4.87. And, I say, well, that's nothing. I had a 4.0, but I did add together the 1.0 I got as a ninth grader, 1.0 as a 10th grader. It became 4.0 by the time I got to be a senior. Bob, it's the way I looked at it. My parents didn't buy it. I said, I'm a 4.0 student. I had my, 1.0 freshman, 1.0 sophomore. I don't know. Just didn't work out for me.
Is that one of your math issues?
Yeah, that's true. And people say, well, how do you get better than 4.0? Well, you take the advanced placement courses, and they grade out to a 5.0 if you get an A. So if you look at somebody who's got a 4.87, that means they're acing their AP courses as well as their regular courses.
Yeah. We saw a bit of preventative officiating there, which is really a good thing. It was a hard foul against the Patterson player, and the referee took the opportunity to talk to the Fallston player and just calm down a little bit. So at least letting him know that you had to play within the reasonable bounds of the laws of the game. And so just putting one notice, if that sort of play continues, that he could be subject to any additional further sanctions.
I like how you call that preventative by the official not having to make the call. If that now, of course, the player's put on notice now. If he commits another foul, then there's no mercy.
It's the cards that are issued by the officials are discretionary, and we like to see them keep them in their pocket.
Yeah.
But there are times when the card is appropriate and shown.
Well, and you're down 3-0. That's a nice come-out save by Ryan Frankus. First time we've called that sophomore's name. This time he didn't hesitate. He came right out and made the play.
I think we've actually seen a little bit of change in the play here. Fallston seems to have calmed down. They've gathered their senses. They're a little bit of shock early on, but they're beginning to control the ball at midfield and been able to actually make some runs up the field and get deep into Patterson Mill's end.
And you look at those goals by Patterson Mill. This often happens. They were good goals, done well, but they were, let's say, timely goals or fortunate goals that the player found himself one-on-one with the goalie. And then goalie Cason Donahue just really in at least two of those cases, was just point blank one-on-one, and he had to make a decision. And in both cases, he made the wrong decision.
Well,
one where he came out too slow, and the other where he laid back and perhaps should have come out a little more quickly.
Yeah, it's about getting caught in no man's land.
Yeah, it is.
Occasionally it happens, but at the same time, two of those shots were pretty stout.
Yeah.
They had some velocity behind them, and may not have been able to stop them anyway.
Yeah. 3-0 again, as you see. Those three goals all scored within the first 4 minutes of the game. All by Patterson Mill, and now almost another attempt. That was Ethan Schultz, who looked like he was coming one-on-one against the goalie.
It's good recovery by the defense there. He gave up corner kick, but that's better than the alternative.
First corner kick I think we've seen, and Bob, you know the importance of the corner kicks. They do present a great opportunity for the offensive team.
A lot of times people just think that's sort of haphazard. They kick the ball in and everything, but actually there are some quality set plays on the positions like this.
But that went all the way through the goal mouth and then was kicked on the far side. Not sure if that was the plan, but it almost worked. 3 goals by 3 different players for Patterson Mill. First goal was by Cameron Dawson. That came at 8:50 or 38:54. Second goal at 37:33 by Ethan Schultz. And the third goal by Dylan Goff, that at 35:25. So within a little over 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 35 seconds, it was 3-0 Patterson Mill, and that's where we are now with just about half of the first half gone. Bob, you're right. The game has sort of settled into a evenly played game, but it's just so tough to come back from a 3-0 deficit in a sport like soccer, where many times, you don't score 3 goals the entire game.
Not usually in a situation where you have quality teams that know how to play and know how to protect the lead.
Yeah.
So you'll see the strategy change as I don't think you'll see much change this half as we get deep into the second half and the score remains the same, or if Fallston manages to come back a little bit, get a couple more goals, then you'll see Patterson Mill change its configuration and maybe some of its personnel to play a more defensive game.
We talked about their record, Patterson Mill 2-6, but 6 of their 6 losses, 5 of the 6 have been by 1 goal. That includes the game they had against North Hartford, the last game they played. They lost 2-1 in 2 overtimes. And, you know, you go back as a coach and you say, but for a bounce here and there, we could be 6-2 rather than 2-6.
That's true. You know, the ball's round and it doesn't always bounce your way. But that's a testament to the fact that the kids play hard. They don't give up. They stay in the game. And, you know, during the course of a game, there are just 2 or 3 opportunities. Maybe if you had done something a little bit different, the outcome of the game is different.
Bryce Hoffmeister into the game, number 7 for Patterson Mill. Sitting down is Ethan Schultz. I'm sure that's just for a quick rest. Again, it is a misty night. Temperatures probably in the high 50s by now. Bob, we're supposed to get in the 40s by this weekend, and that comes after a Wednesday, like yesterday we're talking about, where we broke all the records with a 98-degree temperature reading, the highest, third highest in the history of Maryland in October, and breaking the record by, 9 degrees on that date, October the 2nd.
Yeah, I officiated a game yesterday. It was like I thought it was in August.
Here comes the corner kick, but he doesn't get it in the, yes he does, into the field of play. That ball had a nice curve on it. The other thing too about, and they were talking that this game probably would not have been played had it been scheduled for yesterday, because they have a temperature reading on turf. If it gets too hot, they just cancel the game, and there would not have been a game played. Just kind of weird, you know, game canceled because it's too hot.
Actually, a fellow official was supposed to referee at Fallston yesterday, and his game was canceled because of that.
Yeah.
I guess part of the rationale or thinking is that there are rubber pellets that are ground up that are actually embedded in the grass, I guess, artificial grass on the field here, and the sun beats down on it and it gets hot.
That's called an unforeseen difficulty. Your turf field, okay, it rains, you can still play, but if it's too hot, you can't play on the turf field. Go back to the days they used to have turf baseball fields like at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and they would stand, the infielders would stand sort of tiptoe because their feet would burn. They'd get blisters on the bottom of their feet. The turf does get hot. It radiates heat, as you said, Bob. Those rubber pellets sort of become like charcoals almost on the field.
Well, we just saw the first yellow card of the game. Fallston players running through, actually beginning to enter into the offensive third.
And a yellow card, explain what happens with yellows and reds.
Well, in the case of a yellow card, it's a foul that is a little bit more aggressive than a simple foul. If somebody trips or gets pushed or something like that. The fact that it was a tackle from behind and got the player, it poses a danger. And so the player gets the yellow card, must come off the field, and then can come back.
Now, do you play a man down?
Not with a yellow card.
Okay, it's just the red card.
Yes, the yellow card, the teams are allowed to substitute for the carded player, and then that player has to sit out at least until the next legal substitution for their team.
Okay.
And of course, in the red card, those situations, indeed, you do play down.
And the 2 yellows then equal a red, so if you get a second yellow card, you're out and you do play a man down from that point?
Yes, and so this serves as notice for that player that he has to be especially careful for the rest of the game, and it serves notice to the rest of the players on the field to see what kind of physical play that the referees are allowing to take place or are not allowing to take place.
Yeah. And Bob, for the next game, does the red card recipient, does he have to sit out the very next game as well?
Well, that's an administrative decision made by the person in charge of athletics for the school system.
Okay.
Generally, what you'll find is a yellow card, a red card, will require at least a 1-game suspension. Mm-hmm. But depending on the individual circumstances of what the card was for, the administration can choose to lengthen that sanction if they choose to.
Mitchell Street, the captain, back in the game, number 7 for Fallston. By the way, headed for the Merchant Marines next year. His birthday is coming up on the 6th of October. What is that? That would be a Sunday?
I believe so.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mitchell. This game will be televised on Saturday, so we can say happy birthday tomorrow, Mitchell. I was reading about Kason Donahue, the goalie for Fallston. He says he can kick the back of his head. Now that's a skill that I'm not sure there's a lot of call for it, and there's a push from behind. Let's see if the
official picked it up,
but not a yellow card. That he looked like he actually did give him a nice push from behind.
He gave him a little bit of shove. But,
so Bob, let me ask you, kicking yourself in the back of the head, is that something that you would like to list as one of your greatest accomplishments?
Well, not necessarily that in itself, but maybe it demonstrates a high degree of flexibility.
Well, I don't think it's so big because I've done that. Not intentionally now. I fell down the steps. There's somebody who gets tripped.
That's just outside the box. Very fortunate there. Another step and before the foul there, and that could have been a penalty kick.
So now what will happen here? This is the kicker can kick it in the goal from here.
Yes, this is a direct free kick. No one else has to touch the ball. You'll see the referee there is now making sure that the defensive players respect the 10-yard step back that's required in the game.
Ryan Frankus is way over to the left side. Now he moves to the middle, the goalie. Ideally, let's see. Oh, there's the goal. The first goal. That ball hit very, very solidly. It looks like number 11 making the goal for Fallston.
That ball was struck very hard over the wall. Normally you don't see...
This is Isaac Rich who made that goal for Fallston. Watch the replay here. You'll see how he kicked it just to that upper right-hand corner. Just where goalie Frankus could not get it. Looked like Frankus took a step to his right, and then by that time he was just done.
Well, what you saw was some of the members of the wall separated, and they sort of ducked out of the way, which allowed the ball to squirt through. Ideally, the wall is there to protect one half of the goal so that the goalie doesn't have to worry about it. But if your wall breaks, then it leaves you exposed, and that's exactly what happened. He made a really good effort.
Isaac Rich, who is a senior, one of the captains on the team, his second year on the varsity. And that is very important, Bob, as we talked about. Now it's 3-1, and it's a game again. If you can get it to 3-2 before halftime, then, it's sort of as good as the people, as Chuck Thompson used to say. The folks are as good as the people now.
Well, we see now a kick deep in Fallston's end, sort of a reverse of just what we saw, and we'll see whether or not Fallston could defend this a little better.
Yeah, almost as you said, a replica, sort of the opposite term. Kason Donahue, the goalie for Fallston, directing his players. Again, remember being a sophomore, 2 sophomore goalies in tonight's game. Looks like Schultz maybe 17. No, and there's the goal too, the equalizer. It wasn't Schultz. Let's try to pick up that number.
Number 24.
24. And yeah, that's Karwatka. Travis Karwatka, the second-year captain. He is a fullback here. You'll see the replay, how he hits it. Almost a replica. This one a little bit lower than the one that Fallston hit. Right by Donahue, the goalie, and now just like that, it's back to 4-1. So what had happened with Fallston closing and making a game of it, now it's right back where it was.
I think on that shot, we did see the keeper position his wall to cover the post, but some of these students, these athletes, are very skilled and have the ability to bend that ball. So maybe he bent it like Beckham.
And the difference was Karwatka's was sort of a low kick. It got by the wall. Meantime, the kick by Rich was a high kick, went over the wall, and caught the same side. Normally, and correct me, Bob, if I'm wrong, a right-footed kicker, you expect it in the upper right-hand corner if you're the goalie, because the ball tends to curve. But both of those goals were in the lower right-hand or lower left-hand corner.
Well, you see these kids are able to hit with either foot, and they can make the ball move either way. I've seen these student athletes are hitting the ball not simply also with the inside of their foot, but the outsides of their feet. Yeah,
that's quite a skill. There's another push down, but they're playing on, saying no harm, no foul. 11 minutes and 50-some seconds left in this first half. 4-1 as you see the score. It started 3-0. Fallston closed to 3-1. Now it's right back to 4-1.
It's amazing how quickly that momentum can change. You have a lot of spirit there on Fallston gets a goal, and they're back in the game, and then to give up in the goal immediately is a little bit disheartening.
And Bob, you were so right. It's almost like carbon copies. It was a penalty kick for Fallston, and then the same thing for Patterson Mill, and the results were exactly the same. And if you're a goalie, how wide is the goal mouth, Bob?
Too wide.
What's it, like 12 feet perhaps, or I'm not sure.
It's 20 feet.
20 feet wide?
20 feet
So
wide.
to cover 20 feet, you almost have to guess correctly and be moving when the ball is kicked.
A lot of times that's what you have to anticipate. But then again, that's why you use the wall.
Yeah.
The wall is there to give you protection and to help you.
And there's a goal. Great throw in. And then the goal, it looked like scored by number 10, Cristo Handrogiannis made that, and we talked about that throw in. See if we can, 19 on the throw in. That was Brendan Mudd. 19 scored, excuse me. The score was by 19 Brendan Mudd, not 10. Can't pick up the young man who threw the ball in.
Throws deep in the box, and what we have is the Patterson Mill defense simply didn't clear the ball. It allowed it to go to the person trailing on the backside of the goal, and was able to put it in.
So it's Brendan Mudd who scores the goal, makes it 4-2. So we're right back where we were about 3 minutes ago, which is that Fallston has closed within 2 goals.
Well, I can't think that anyone could say that this game hasn't been entertaining.
It has been exciting.
So.
And it does give indications of inexperienced teams because, Bob, as you said, that throw-in, Mudd was left pretty much all by himself on the far side. He was able just to settle the ball and then kick it right in.
I can remember Coach Metzger telling us constantly we always had to have a defender on the back post. If, in fact, he'd had that in that situation, he could have boxed out the offensive player and kept the goal from being scored.
On the other hand, Mudd made a great settle with that right foot and then didn't panic. He just knew the goalie was out of position and just booted it right in that upper right-hand corner of the goal. Mudd had 2 assists on the year. I believe that is his first goal, Mudd being one of the sophomores on the Fallston team. Now here comes a corner kick, and Fallston, if they can convert and pull within 1 goal. Good battle there inside. Oh, that ball hits the crossbar. Now, I'm not sure if it was the yellow crossbar or the white crossbar, but it was close.
Hit the white crossbar, otherwise the referee would have called the ball out for hitting the football crossbar.
So that ball, had it been 3 inches lower, we'd have had a 4-3 game right now.
Yes, that was, sometimes the ball has eyes.
Really? Sort of like in Castaway with Wilson.
That's it.
Yeah. Great movie if you haven't seen Tom Hanks' Castaway. I'm not in the habit of hawking for movies, but that was a great movie. Speaking of Tom Hanks and great movies, John Scheck, who's one of the inductees into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame, played the lead singer in The Wonders in the Tom Hanks movie, That Thing You Do. Did you know that, Bob?
No, I didn't, but
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me because we've had many talented people from many different professions come through Edgewood High School. I'm very proud to be an alumni.
Class of 1973. I say that because I'm the class of 1962. Now, don't do your addition in your head. Yeah, that was 50. How many years ago was that? 57? That's ridiculous. Seems like yesterday, doesn't it, Bob?
Yeah, but the body tells me it's different.
Good job there by goalie Ryan Frankus. Actually, goalie Kason Donahue. Both sophomores, Donahue and Frankus, the opposing goalies. Both have been under fire here tonight, and I'm sure it's the kind of lessons you learn, Bob, as a sophomore. The things that when you watch the film, in this case they will have a high-quality film performed by the Hartford Cable Network guys. And they can analyze and slow it down and see exactly where they made perhaps a mistake, or they could have come out more soon, or...
Yeah, film is a great teaching and learning tool. Unfortunately, I didn't have that when I was playing.
What a great throw in. It looks like Will Mayo, number 8. And that would be called a whiff.
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing on national TV, but get up and dust yourself off. And a lot of substitutes coming in now, keeping the players fresh. Heat is not an issue, but certainly fatigue because they have been going at it. We're now just about 6:50 left in this first half.
Yeah, it's been a very up and down the field game. So the players are running a lot.
Competitive game because you know that each of these teams, one is 1-3, the other 0-3 in the Chesapeake, another loss, and they can just about kiss their chances of getting hot late in the year and catching some of the, the front runners in the Chesapeake. Also, you're building for the playoffs. Both these teams have experienced playoff success before.
Well, I think that's it. Hopefully you learn from your defeats, and it helps you prepare for that run in the playoffs when you get the opportunities. It's been my experience to see teams get hot and have not necessarily had a terrific regular season, but they get hot during the playoffs and make a really deep run.
And Bob, we talked with Chris Hoover about it. He likes to play a tough schedule early, and also when he's in the Chesapeake, you're playing a tough opponent every night. So that's what you build again for the playoffs. If you play cupcakes all year and your record ends up being, a very high and good record, you get to the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, it's sometimes.
Bob, excuse me, Bob, you talked about preventive officiating. There was where the two players, a little chippy as they were down on the turf, and the official comes in and says, "Hey, let's play the game the way it's supposed to be played." Pardon me. Go ahead. You were making a point.
Well, that's all right. It's about trying to talk to players and keep them their head focused in the game where it's supposed to be, and
just like
keep
that,
them in the game.
We have another call that will go the way of Patterson Mill. Will be hit from about the 20-yard line. Of course, the goal is on the in line, so that would be a 30-yard kick to the goal. Again, it's a free kick that he doesn't have to touch another offensive player.
No, it can be kicked directly. That's why they call it a direct free kick as opposed to an indirect. And
looks like Travis Karwatka, one of the captains. State lacrosse title last year, by the way. We'll talk about that. Nice play. Boy, he lifted that very nicely and almost a chance to get in to head the ball in. Think about that last year. Karwatka played on 2 state title teams in the same year.
It's quite an accomplishment.
Lacrosse and soccer.
Well, that just goes to show you that also these athletes are just that, good athletes, and many of them play multiple sports and excel.
We talked to Coach Wes Rich about Jake Bechtel, number 13, the junior defenseman. Didn't lose a game in the JV for 2 years. Nice play there. Good cover up by Ryan Frankus. He was sure that ball was not going to go through the 5 hole, as you said, Bob.
Yeah.
But anyhow, back to Bechtel. He didn't lose a game as a JV player. They were 10-0-1 and 11-0. Came up to the varsity late in the year, and of course they went on that run and won all the way to the state title. So his first taste of defeat in high school was earlier this year. That's not a bad record.
No, not a bad record at all.
To go undefeated into your junior year, having played 3 full seasons.
That kind of reminds me of Bill Walton, who played high school, never lost a game, played all through college for UCLA, and only lost his 1 game in the NCAA championship game in his senior year.
Wow. Chance at Schultz. And the goal! Scored! Schultz on
no goal.
On the feed. No, they're saying no goal?
There'll be no goal. It's an offside call.
Calling the offside, and so wipe that goal out. It's not 5-2. It's still 4-2. Wow. Here's the replay. Let's see if you can see if he was offside.
Yes, you can see him. He's clearly behind the last defender. You always have to have the ball and at least one defender between you and the goal.
Okay, it's time for me to make an editorial comment. Do away with offside. The defender should have been back there. I think it's a horrible rule in soccer. And you being the soccer aficionado will say, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'll say I like it because I was a defender.
Okay, fine. It spreads the game out. If you have to be back there to defend and not let the guy get behind you, I've seen they don't do it as much, but they used to sort of bring everybody up and get the offensive guy just to trap himself offside. That was stupid.
Oh, that's smart defensive play. It's called the trap for a reason.
Oh, goodness. Do away with offside. See, I'm one of those guys that says until soccer becomes a high-scoring sport in pros, it's just not going to be attractive to most Americans. Even Americans don't like 1-0 baseball games.
That's true. I mean, we're addicted to high scores, but I can look at a game that's a 1-0 game and see the skill level and the quality.
Purist, you're like that.
I'll admit to it.
See, and I'm a baseball purist, so I love a 1-0 baseball game. The difference is in baseball, every pitch is a potential home run. In soccer, you could play, large parts of the game at midfield, and they only have 3 or 4 chances.
Ooh, good clear there.
That was a nice clear.
And he had an offensive player running onto that ball. If he doesn't make that clear, it's in the net. So he give up a corner kick, but that's better than giving up the goal.
Absolutely, yeah. Didn't catch the defender's number, but that was a great defensive play. 4-2, as you see. It started out 3-0, was 3-1, then 4-1, then 4-2, and that's where we are. About 1:13 left in this first half. A very exciting, fast-paced first half. Saw 3 goals scored within less than 5 minutes by Patterson Mill, taking that 3-0 lead. Good job defensively by Patterson Mill. Huskies looking for their second win in a row against Fallston, and that would be their only 2 wins in the history of the program against the Cougars.
Very nice feed there.
Good defensive play, though. Nice collapse by Patterson Mill. It looked like Fallston had a chance to get one-on-one on the goalie. But give the Cougars credit. They have recovered from that 3-0 pasting they took early on.
Well, it's like I said, 1 goal at a time.
Back a little bit, Peter.
Come on.
Get up another corner.
20 seconds.
They better hurry now.
Yeah, the clock continues to run. 19, 18, and 17. Looks like he'll get the corner off. Could be the last play of the first half. Kicked out by Patterson Mill. 5 seconds, 4. So looks like that will end the first half with that 4-2 score. And that's where we end. Goals by Dawson, Ethan Schultz, and Goff for Patterson Mill. Those first 3, then Rich for Fallston, Karwatka for Patterson Mill, and Mudd made it 4-2 at the half, and that's where we stand. We'll take a break. We'll come back with the second half action. Don't you go away. We'll be right back. We're back with you at Aberdeen High School, and again, we urge don't get confused. We're playing at Aberdeen. It is a Patterson Mill home game. Patterson Mill's field is being converted into a turf field, so come next year they'll be playing at home on the turf. But Bob, it is no fun in your senior year, if you happen to be like Karwatka or some of these seniors, that you're playing every game away from home, and so your fans, first of all, don't get a chance to drop by in the neighborhood and watch you play. So it's probably not the way you would like to finish your high school career.
Like I say, it's just it's a burden as far as the distance to travel. I remember when I was playing Edgewood the first year, we didn't have a practice field.
Yeah.
We had to go all the way over to Joppatown just to practice every day and then come back to school to be released.
We were talking about Paul Metzger, and he actually did start the soccer program at Edgewood. There was no soccer program. He was a 4-year player at Bowling Green in Ohio and came and was the basketball coach who won the state title in 1975 and also was the soccer coach, very successful, and again began the program that didn't exist until he was there. So,
yeah, like I said, we were the first team to win the county championship other than North Hartford because North Hartford didn't have a football team back then.
And that's the key. The North Hartford kids, they were great soccer players from way back. Mr. Pyle, who was the principal at North Hartford at the time, did not believe in football, and so he resisted, and they didn't get football until Mr. Pyle retired. And then suddenly they became divided like all the other schools of having a soccer team and a football team and a cross-country team. And, then it sort of evened the play out because the athletes went their way, some playing football and some playing soccer. Let's get back to this game, 4-0 or 4-2, I should say. It was 3-0 Patterson Mill just about 5 minutes into the game. I really have to give the Fallston kids a lot of credit. They win from that point 2-1, but more importantly, they narrow the score now to 4-2, and now it's a game and not just a runaway. So the Patterson Mill Huskies with that 2-goal lead. Bob, always ask my compatriot, if you were the coach of either team, let's talk Fallston first, what would you say to your team at halftime?
Just keep doing what you're doing. You've demonstrated that you can win the majority of the balls at this point. Where they were really losing the game at the early part was in the midfield, and now they've reversed that, and now it's a very even up game, and both teams have an equal opportunity here.
And Patterson Mill, they've switched around, obviously, at the halftime. The Huskies are going from left to right across your screen, Fallston right to left. And so switch around if you're West Rich with the 2-goal lead. What do you say to your team?
Same thing. Keep doing what you're doing. I would say that maybe they need to press a little bit more on the offensive end and control the ball a little bit more at the midfield. I think when we had the interview early on, he mentioned the fact that there was about possession. Controlling the ball, and like football where games are won and lost in the trenches, you'll see in soccer many goals are...
Oh, that's close. That tough angle on the ball, just a little bit wide.
Yeah. Games are won and lost at the midfield.
Yeah. If you don't get the ball down in the opponent's scoring area, your chances of scoring are slim and none, and Slim left town about half hour ago. Here comes the corner kick. Left-footed kick from that side. Nice head, but unable to get it toward the goal. A little unusual to see a left-footer kicking from that side, Bob. Trying to curl it from behind the net. There's a nice little save. Good job diving for the ball. It was Kaysen Donahue, the sophomore goalie. 81 saves during the year. Kaysen also plays lacrosse. You find a lot of soccer players, sort of dual players with lacrosse. Seems to be a sport that originally was a football player sport, but more and more soccer players tend to play lacrosse. My point being is in the early days, lacrosse was sort of like a football without pads. Now it's become more of a finesse game, and so you see a lot of the skill players rather than just the big muscular guys who sort of push each other around.
Well, I think what you see is the footwork.
Yeah.
I mean, these soccer players have tremendous foot skills.
Yeah.
And so that's the cutting, the quick starts and stops, and that's exactly what you see in lacrosse.
Nice play by Patterson Mill. Good job coming out this time. The Fallston goalie, Donahue, comes out and makes that save. That was Cameron Dawson, number 25, who one-on-one was attacking the goal. Dawson has scored that first goal of the game back at 38-54.
What you're seeing here is what I talked about in the first half, is that the first 5 minutes of a half is one team is trying to press its will on the other. And we saw that the first half where Patterson Mill was dominating and dictating the play, and it's starting out that way as well in the second half.
Again, when it's 3-0 with less than 5 minutes played, if you're the defensive team, I mean, you have to say, whoa, it's like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Who are those guys?
Well, I think it's a matter of just being more confident, making your marks.
Well, the ball goes by the goalie. Oh, great play by Fallston to kick it out. That ball was almost in the net. See if I can get a number for you on that Fallston player who made
That's
that.
number 20.
For Fallston.
Yes, he definitely saved the goal there.
Let's see if we can find a 20 on our roster. He's not on the starting lineup. Get that number for you here just as soon as we can find our Fallston roster. 20, that's Michael Estrimsky. He came
Here
out
we
of
go.
nowhere.
Here we go with a breakaway. Oh my goodness! Just missed. The defender was just able to just stick his toe in there and deflect the ball off of the offensive player, who had a really good break and run onto the goal.
And that was Christo Giannis.
And we just saw some really good sportsmanship there as number 10 gave a hand slap to the defender saying, "Good job."
Yeah, got me right. Again, it is 4-2 as you see the score. So Fallston has trailed the entire game, down 3-0 at one point. Timeout as a ball goes on the field, and it's been removed. So now Patterson Mill will put the ball in play with that 2-goal lead, about 5 minutes gone here in this second half. Two teams coming in at 1-3. That's Fallston, and 0-3 Patterson Mill in the Chesapeake. So you can tell by that both teams are desperate for a win. And even more than that, perhaps, last year Patterson Mill won its first game in the history of the school against Fallston. And how great would that be for them if you were the Patterson Mill players to win 2 years in a row? So you can claim for the rest of your life, hey, I was undefeated against Fallston High School. And trust me, Bob, they will, because as I said 57 years ago, I remember pitching a double no-hitter against Bel Air.
Bragging rights never disappear.
Well, and that's my memory. I think it was probably, they beat me twice, but my memory is that I was able to. Now, you do, and especially your teammates, and, Bob, you can attest to this. Some of your best friendships you have for your entire life are the ones you make on the field, during your soccer or baseball or basketball, whatever it happens to be.
I think in many ways, some of life's hardest and best lessons are learned in competitive sport.
And I know you're still very close to Coach Metzger, and again, some of your best mentors for your entire life are those high school coaches that, went out of their way to help you and to guide you and to sort of maybe calm you down a bit and pep you up when you needed it. Here's the corner kick. My high school baseball coach, Chuck Marzin, who I'm still very close to, again, is my role model and hero for so many reasons. But, yeah, for the lessons he taught back there in those days of high school. Misty, rainy night here at Aberdeen High School. It's been this way since the very beginning of the game. Not a rain, but just enough mist to know that, yeah, it's a little wet out there. Field is held up very well, as turf fields will. Bob, we haven't seen a lot of slipping and sliding on this turf field.
No, like I said, these players are skilled. They're used to playing in these kinds of conditions. So the ball rolls true and balls bounce true. So it's not the same sort of things you get on the grass field that sometimes are pumpy and don't give opportunity for the kids to really show what kind of skills they have.
Mitchell Street, the defender, number 7 for Fallston, making the nice play. Mitchell's one of the captains on the team, one of the seniors, along with Noah Lumpkin. It's kind of significant that there are two defending
Here
players.
is tough break in the box. Let's see if he can say. Oh,
Yeah, nice play there by Patterson Mill, again under the attack. Can't see that number on the far side, who that was that almost got the goal. Maybe Tim can help us in the booth. Good job by Street to come back there and clean it up. Pushing and shoving, and the referee says that's a little too much, and so Fallston will get the ball. Good job by Street. He walled him off. It's kind of like a power forward, going for the rebound.
well, what he's doing there is actually called shielding the ball, and you can keep your opponent from playing the ball as long as you're within distance of playing the ball. But at the same time, you can't grab and try to get around the opponent.
I'll try to say this in a polite way for TV. Charles Barkley, the great announcer who was a great power forward at 6'4", top rebounder in the league, and people say, well, how did he do it? Well, Charles had what would be called a ample derriere. And Charles was very good at getting that derriere into the body of his opponent, and you just couldn't get around him. You could be 6'10", 7 feet. It didn't matter. Charles was going to get that rebound, and you weren't going to get around him to get it. Did we say that politely? Is that okay for TV?
I thought you did a fine job.
Thank you. So my point is that the Fallston defender was playing a similar. Oh, there's a nice head. It almost gets in.
Yes, that was
almost got by the goalie.
A very good opportunity and attempt to redirect the ball.
Oh, very good call, Bob, because that ball was headed in one direction, and the header, wasn't a header to hit the ball hard. It just merely redirected it, and it would have gotten by the goalie, except it was a little bit wide. Still 4-2. That was the score at halftime. We're about 10 minutes into this second half. If you're Patterson Mill, you count the. There's a collision, and both players go down. They're a little shaken up, but they'll be okay, it appears.
Good sportsmanship again there.
Mm-hmm. My point being is, if you're Patterson Mill, you look at the clock and you say, keep on ticking. If you're Fallston, you aren't worried yet because you've got almost 30 minutes. But at some point, if you can't get it down to one goal, then it becomes sort of problematic. Patterson Mill again with a 3-0 lead to start the game, and they were up 3-1, then up 4-1, now up 4-2, and that's where we are. Corner kick coming up. Good job by goalie Donahue coming out and picking up the loose ball. Goalies I've found, Bob, over the years, and maybe you can correct me being much more familiar with soccer, at one point you look for the big kid, maybe the center of the basketball team, 6'8", or he sort of took up the whole goal mouth. Now you see a lot of small goalies, small quick ones, similar to catchers in baseball. If you go back to the old days, Hack Wilson and Roy Campanella, just big, beefy guys. Then the Rick Dempsey kind came along that emphasized quickness and ability to be agile.
That's
and
what
you see that with goalies now.
Yes, they're looking for quick reflexes, the ability to move side to side. Game has evolved to the point where these players are very skilled. They can place the ball where they want to place it. So a lot of times it used to be just kick it towards the goal, and if you were big enough, then you had a better chance to be able to block the goal. But not anymore. So we're looking for speed. We're looking for quickness and agility.
Here comes Fallston now looking to try to get back within that one goal. They've not been closer than 2 goals the entire game. They were down 3 twice, and then they've been down 2 twice, and that's where we are. They scored that last goal of the first half. Scored a goal at the 10:42 mark to make it 4-2, and we haven't had a goal now for about almost 30 minutes. Goalie comes out. Can't go beyond that yellow circle to touch the ball. He can kick it and come out, right, Bob, but he can't touch it, and that ball was close to the yellow circle.
Yeah, he's within the penalty area. He can use his hands, but once he steps outside of those yellow lines there, then he becomes just like any other field player, and the only thing he can do is use his feet or any other parts of his body, just not his hands.
Right. We talk for similarities with other sports, and in baseball, when the catcher is, of course, the quarterback of the team, the only defender who faces in one direction, everybody else is facing the other direction. The goalie is like the catcher, of your soccer team, because he directs everybody else. Oh, that ball was hit hard, but unfortunately for Patterson Mill, right at the goalie, and Donahue made the catch.
Yeah, they are the quarterback. It's their responsibility to see what is going on in front of them and direct their defenders to places that are going to be most advantageous to them as far as defending their end of the field.
It's one other reason why it's nice to have an upperclassman as your goalie, because in terms of respect, the upperclassman normally commands the respect of others, and so when you have a sophomore goalie, it becomes kind of a burden on him to be able to assert his, let's say, dominance over senior teammates.
Defensive effort there just to keep the ball out.
Yeah.
Surrenders.
It was another nice throw in. That ball was thrown, from the sideline all the way to the goal mouth. A long field. It's 120 yards long is the field, so a lot of running in this game, and your aerobics have to be pretty good to be able to play this sport. Corner kick. Good defensive play again. Another corner coming up, I think, yes.
Yeah.
Which is, Bob, kind of why I liked right field in baseball. You could sort of just stand there in Little League. Nice header, but it goes right to the goalie. Ryan Frankus, who has an easy save. Interesting strategy where they don't try to put the ball at the goal mouth. They're putting it all the way across the goal.
They're trying to put it in a position where the keeper really doesn't want to come out because it's too far, and a lot of times the goal box is crowded with bodies, and so you can't just run over people to get the ball. The goalie can be responsible for creating a foul.
Bob, that was a prime example of the goalie coming out, not risking touching the ball, whether he was out of the circle or not. He instead kicked it, was able to disrupt the attack there by Patterson Mill. Good job by Donahue to come out.
Yeah, on the corner kicks, the idea is generally to put it out beyond the 6, which is the goal box. Again, creates a situation where you don't want the.
Let's see what they're going to call. The goalie came out and tried to sort of fist the ball out of there. They're going to call a penalty against Patterson Mill, and so Fallston will get the goal kick coming up.
The signal that the referee was using indicate a handball.
Oh, okay.
So
it looked like there was a collision that the goalie had the right to come to the ball, and there was a collision. So you're thinking handball instead, huh?
Well, just because there's a collision doesn't necessarily mean there's a foul.
Yeah.
And the offensive player and the keeper have equal rights to try to get to the ball.
The difference is the keeper can use his hands.
Yes.
Which makes it a little more difficult if you're the offensive player. And that had to be a push down, but didn't get called. Play on. Oh, body down. Been a very clean game, Bob. I think you'll agree. The officials have done a good job, and the players also, as you have mentioned a couple of times, good sportsmanship on both sides.
Well, I think these players are skilled. They rely on their skills and don't necessarily have to rely on physical play. Sometimes you'll see that with less skilled players who have to rely on physical prowess a little bit to sort of influence their play.
Boy, nice header there to knock it out of the offensive area. Now a little breakaway coming for Patterson Mill. 3 defenders back, though. Let's see, the offensive player breaks through, and the save is made. Boy, that was a tough angle. Good play by the offensive player. I didn't pick up his number as he came toward the goalie, but Cason Donahue came out and was able to cut down the angle and make the save.
Yeah, he covered his goal on the near post. That was pretty much the only shot that that player had.
Yeah. Really can't pick up his number. I'd like to give you the player for Patterson Mill. Looks like it may have been number 5, Eric Nutzling, because he was able to take the ball away from 3 defenders, and then he did have a one-on-one with the goalie. Unfortunately for him, it was a very tough angle, and the goalie did a nice job of cutting down the angle, coming out and making the save. So we had 3 goals in less than 5 minutes, and we've had no goals in 30 minutes. Just saying, Bob.
Yes, one side.
Good defensive play again.
The referee gave an immediate signal that the player was one side at the kick. So that's letting the players and his partner on the other side of the field know that the play was still live.
My partner is an official in his other life, so he's able to pick up these calls that officials make. Good defensive play again. Will be another corner kick. Oh, nice play by goalie Donahue coming out and punching the ball out of there. He's off the goalie. It doesn't touch anybody else, so it will stay in the hands of Patterson Mill. The Huskies looking for their 3rd win of the year, their first win in the Chesapeake Division. They come in 0-3. That tough loss, 2-1 to North Hartford in double overtime. Goalie comes out and lets the ball bounce right to him and is able to leap up. And I guess, Bob, if the tall goalie has an advantage at all, it would be on a play like that where he is towering over the defenders and being able to, knock the ball away or catch it. So a shorter defender like Donahue has to rely more on position. Fallston player goes up, comes down. No call because that was sort of on his volition, right, to go up?
Yes, the other player had position, and he jumped up to try to go over top of him, and he just happened to come down on the back of the other player. So there's no foul there.
Patterson Mill on the attack, but unable to convert. Remind you, the last goal came in the first half at the 10:42 mark. We're now inside 20 minutes left in the game, and the score remains 4-2.
It's getting late enough in the game that Fallston is going to have to start changing their tactics a little bit if they want to get back in it. They're going to have to start pressing forward more of their players. They may change their lineup somewhat and add more midfielders, take away a defender to try to gain possession and move the ball forward.
Of course, the defender there, I mean, let's say the choice you take and the chance is that opens up lanes for Patterson Mill if they're able to score again and go up 3 goals.
Yes, that's what happens is you have the less defenders, and then it exposes you to the counterattack.
Yeah. You talk about getting late. My favorite philosopher, Yogi Berra, who said he gets late early around here.
It comes up on you quickly.
Which makes a lot of sense to me. Yogi who said, I didn't say half the things that 90% of the people say I did. Yogi who passed away, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, had some great lines.
I think Yogi is the only player in Major League, and I could be wrong, but I'll try it, in Major League history who has, I should say the Yankees, the number 8 was retired twice. Bill Dickey, the original number 8, and then Yogi Berra, number 8. The Yankees have retired so many single-digit numbers, they have none left.
That's an interesting stat.
There you go. I'm just full of useless information that has nothing to do with the soccer game. Good defensive play there. But Fallston has done a nice job defensively, but they have been under fire recently.
Yep, little trip there.
1, Billy Martin. 2, Derek Jeter. 3, Babe Ruth. 4, Lou Gehrig. 5, Joe DiMaggio. 6, Joe Torre. 7, Mickey Mantle. 2 8s, Dickey and Berra. 9, Maris. There it is. Now, how do I know that and can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning? It's called selective memory. I only remember the unimportant stuff.
It's interesting.
Not at all.
Yes, it is.
No, it just allows me to exercise my lungs for no good purpose.
Well, I'll remember that now.
There
That's a fact that I can say that I'll remember. There are no single-digit numbers in the Yankees anymore. Yeah. And good reason. They were all great players.
They were, yeah. Now, here's another little stat for you. Do you know why Babe Ruth had number 3 and Lou Gehrig had number 4?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
I will, because originally there were no numbers on the back of the uniform, so when they put numbers on the back, they simply put their number in their batting order. Ruth batted 3rd, Gehrig batted 4th, so that's how the numbers were originally parceled out. Again, useless information.
Well, I'll give you another little piece of information.
Here we go.
I am related to Frankie Frisch. If that name ring a bell for you?
Yeah, oh, he does. Yeah, yeah. The Fordham Flash.
Yes, he was. Also a member of the Hall of Fame.
Tim reminds me that I have gone the whole game without talking about Cal Ripken. Oh, goodness. That ball sails out of play.
Just barely.
Yeah. How about that? Frankie Frisch was a relative of yours.
Yes, he was.
Well, Alan Stingle, who is works for Mountain Christian Church and also is one of our camera folks, is the great something of Casey Stingle. Oh. Yeah, old number 37, the old professor. Folks out there taking notes on all this. There will be a test later. 15 minutes and 40 seconds left in this contest. We have not had a goal, as we said, since the 10-minute mark, 10 minutes and 42 seconds to be exact, in that first half. Not that it has not been interesting play, because Patterson Mill has had several close encounters there on the goal, but Donahue has come out, either he or the defenders, and made plays. Fallston, on the other hand, really hasn't had a great attack here in the second half. They need that goal that will make it 4-3 and, put a little crimp in the plans of Patterson Mill. Again, here's a team, the Huskies, who had never beaten in the history of the program, even though all the success that West Rich has had never defeated Fallston until last year on their way to the state title. Cougars, ball taken away, but the Cougars maintain possession. Still, the ball will be out of play. Nope, it'll stay in play. Patterson Mill with it. Whistle blows.
Offside. It's hard for the players sometimes. They see the ball is coming their way, and the defender knows where they are, steps up, and puts them in that offside position.
It's like my other pet peeve, and that is that the National League will not adopt the DH. 1972, the American League began the DH, and the game, in my opinion, has improved immeasurably with having 9 batters instead of 8 batters and a sure out. I'm talking about the offside rule that the purists say, no, we have to maintain, because why? Because them's the rules. Bob just shakes his head. Good play by Patterson Mill. I can see those soccer purists out there all saying, baseball guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Very good foot skills there. Number 19 held the ball.
19 for
Fallston.
For Fallston, that's Brendan Mudd.
And eventually he drew the foul just outside the penalty. Again, a dangerous position.
Brendan Mudd, one of the sophomores. Brendan has 2 assists on the year. Looking for Will Mayo, number 8. That's a number we haven't called a lot tonight for Fallston, but he is their leading scorer, 5 goals and 2 assists. Another bit of information, Brendan Mayo is building a 1970 Chevelle.
I'd like to have that car.
Tell me about it.
Wow.
That hit the pipe, and right at the corner of the pipe and the crossbar.
Excellent shot.
It was that.
And if it had been another inch or 2 lower, the keeper would have never got it.
Absolutely. Yeah, perfectly placed. Or I should say almost perfectly placed. We mentioned the assistant coaches for Haverty Grace. Where did they come from? Fallston, Marco Barisi and Stosh Zebran. For Patterson Mill, it's Seth Rennenberger and Joe Palio. Assistant coaches, they're the ones that do a lot of the work out there. The head coach, of course, takes the responsibility. But the assistants come out there, and without great assistants, Bob, and you know that, you've been involved there, they're the ones that do the teaching.
If you look out on the field, you can see that the alignment for Fallston has changed. They're running in 3 backs, defensive backs, and if you look at the chart that the coach gave us as far as the assignments for the starting, they've moved from a 4 defensive back position to a 3 defensive back.
And that's strictly because with 12 minutes to go, they find themselves down by 2 goals.
Yes, so they're needing to push numbers forward. So the last few minutes, we've been able to see that they've been able to put more pressure on Patterson Mill.
Bob, we never want to miss the chance the trainer goes out and brings the Patterson Mill player over. As a former coach where there weren't trainers, it's just unbelievably reassuring and comforting. Ball out in front of the net. Whistle blows. To know that if there is a medical situation, that you don't have to take your time away from your team and use what little medical skills you have. There's a professional, and that's his or her job, to attend to that player.
From an official standpoint, it's actually a relief as well, because as officials, we're not medical people, and making decisions on whether or not a player is physically able to return to the game is quite a responsibility.
And it puts a coach in a tough situation. As a coach, you'd like to have your star player stay on the field. I can remember coaches who shall remain nameless who would say, "Oh, you're not hurt, get up." Good job shielding the player legally was the Fallston defender. Coming out is Donahue. And so that's my point, is that a coach's job is to win the game. Now, obviously, he's concerned about his players, but sometimes he has divided loyalties where you want to have that player back on the field.
And it takes the responsibility away, and in some respects the liability as well.
Especially with concussions. In the old days, the coach would hold up 3 fingers and you said 2, and he'd say close enough. Get in there.
Officials go through protocol training on how to recognize symptoms, because there are occasions where a trainer might not be actually available at the field. I know that schools and the school systems are trying to mandate that there be a trained professional at the fields, but it doesn't quite always happen. So in those last resorts, we're asking the officials to get some training so that they can better assess what the condition of the player is for their safety.
And Bob, you're right there on the site, so you can see it close up, a feet away, a couple of feet away, or at the most a couple of yards away. So while the coach and the trainer may not see exactly what happened, especially with head injuries, and we've become so far, again, in the old days, you got your bell rung. Well, that's a concussion in many cases. And if you add up the concussions that occur, they have the long-term effect, on players. Talk about soccer not being a contact sport. Well, it really is. The only difference between it and football is that football is a collision sport.
Actually, some part of the training that we get is, we've had the medical professionals, especially the lead concussion professional at the University of Maryland, tells us that concussions are more prevalent in soccer than they are in other sports.
Think about the headers, and you think about the all-out running where you run together, heads, and there is no helmet, obviously. And sometimes you have a mouth guard, but that doesn't help with the skull. So yeah. Now, Bob, that rule, the ball has to be all the way along, all the way across the line to be out?
Yes, even the bottom of the ball can be touching the grass outside of the line. But as long as the edge of the ball is over top of any part of the line, it's still in play.
Right, how does a round ball have a bottom? Come on now.
Well, I meant where it touches the ground.
Just kidding. That's very good. I'm glad that you're here to offer these bits of officiating knowledge.
That's a very good throw in.
Great throw in. Again, I remind you, this score 4-2, that's the score we had at half. In fact, that's the score we had at 10:42, about, 2/3 of the way through the first half.
Yeah, time is getting of the essence here for Fallston.
Okay, 3/4. I'm sorry. My math has always been my downfall. Lots of opportunities, but the defense has come up big. For both teams, lots of opportunities. Here comes Patterson Mill. Every second that ticks off when we're down inside 8 minutes. The Huskies have that 1-goal cushion, if you will, leading by 2. You can see on our screen it's getting a little more misty out there. The mist you can actually see. This wasn't supposed to happen. The weather forecasters all said, yeah, it'll maybe a possibility of a little bit of wetness in the morning, but it'll clear up. Wrong. Nice job there by Donahue. Weather forecasting is such a tough job because the conditions change, and what you thought was going to happen at 5 o'clock in the morning, conditions, especially where you have a big body of water like the Chesapeake and mountains to the west.
Offside again. And we're going to get another card, I believe.
I'm not sure.
And he's
reaching for the card.
Calling the player over.
This is the shame of it. When a player commits a foul, he has to come over and stand right next to Daddy, or in this case, the official. Player's okay, up off on his feet. It's like being taken to the woodshed. Young people don't know, but in the old days when you had wood fires, of course there was a woodshed, and whenever Dad wanted to have a heart-to-heart discussion with you, he would take you behind the woodshed. And there would be screaming and hollering, and gnashing of teeth.
I wouldn't know about that, Don. Of course, don't ask my dad.
I would, because I was the subject of that woodshed many times. Good job there coming out Donahue to make the save. Also in the old days, meaning back when I was a student, back when the earth was still cooling, they had cloakrooms in most of the elementary schools, and that's where the teacher would take you back in the cloakroom. Now, not that I ever had that experience, Bob, mind you, but I remember hearing about it. And there it would be called a moment of truth. My first grade teacher, Bob, had something called the Indian twist.
Did it have anything to do with your ear?
No. Oh, that ball almost gets away from the
Yes.
goalie. Good job there coming and making the save, Ryan Frankus. No, she would say, give me your arm, and she would take her hands and twist in opposite directions, which would leave a mark that, of course, you hid from your parents, because if you came home and had a red mark, they would know that you got the Indian twist, which means that you would get the, shall we say, the butt warming. It was a different day. Five minutes and 30 seconds left in this contest. Still the score is 4-2. Again, we talked about it. That's been the score this entire half. Not that either team has sort of salted it away, Bob. They both attack, but the defenses, either that or the offenses, are not yet, let's say, in tune enough, because they are such young teams, to be able to finish the play.
Yeah, there's been a lot of play between the 8 teams, meaning the penalty areas, but there haven't been a lot of really good shots from outside where there's a real serious challenge to the keepers. We had a couple of those hard shots early on, but they were defensive lapses.
And right at the goalie, the two that we've seen here in this half. So again, we're down to 4 minutes and 30 seconds closing in. If you are Fallston at this point, you begin to get a little panic. That is that, you don't have a lot of time. You've got to score that goal to make it 4-3, and then you can, attack. But right now, as long as they have that 2-goal cushion, unless they'll start counting a goal as 2 points, which I don't think they're going to do anytime soon. Remember, though, Patterson Mill scored 3 goals in 5 minutes in the first half. So half the goals were scored in 5 minutes. And then we played almost an entire half and 35 minutes of the other half. So we played over 40 minutes for 3 more goals total. Fallston, as you can see, they're not taking any time at all, and let's see, they're going to say the defender didn't give him enough space. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, it's the responsibility of the defender to back away the 10-yard requirement.
And Fallston was in a hurry, obviously, because they realized the clock at 3 minutes and 20 seconds now. The Huskies looking to come up with their first Chesapeake win on this season. The defending state 1A champions, the Pattersonville Huskies. A great defense by Patterson Mill. Good job booting the ball out of there. That was Christian Schertzer, Christian who normally plays on attack, all the way back in the defensive area. So you can tell that Patterson Mill, is just putting everybody back, if you will. Sure, they like to score a goal, but they're content with 2 minutes and 20 seconds and counting left in this contest.
Of course, Patterson Mill's taking its time getting up to the kick.
I don't blame them. Now, as a referee, at what point do you say you're stalling?
You get on the player. You tell him, "Come on, player, let's go."
But there is not a time limit. A ball up over the goal. Is there a strict time limit on how long it takes you to put a ball and put it in play? Because the clock is running.
No, except the goalkeeper has 6 seconds when they possess the ball in
Right.
order to kick it out. But the referees, if they think that there's gamesmanship going on and it's deliberate stalling, they have the authority to stop the clock.
Okay.
And if they believe that it's a reoccurring problem with an individual player, they could actually issue a card for unsporting behavior.
Without a warning?
Well, it wouldn't come without a warning.
Coming up on 1:30. You never want to say this game is, over. Remember Don Meredith, the late great Don Meredith, who began singing "Turn Out the Lights, the Party's Over," the old Willie Nelson song. Remember that, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you're old enough to remember that. Young people saying, "What is he talking about?" On Monday Night Football, when the game was out of reach, Dandy Don Meredith would begin singing "The Party's Over," which was one of Willie Nelson's. That's a goal. That ball is over the goalie's head, and the goal is scored. See if we can see the number. Is it 24?
24 again.
Yeah, that's Travis Krawatka. Amazing. And so now the score is 5-2 with 1:11 to go. Here's the replay. Watch this. This is shot from what, 40 yards out? From the 40, so it's a 50-yard kick.
50-yard kick.
And it floats, and
Just
over the goalie's head and goal.
Just over the fingertips.
And we're talking about the size of a goalie, and again, the fact that Donahue is not the tallest of people. That ball went over his head. What's it, a 10-foot bar? The bar's up 10 feet?
10 feet.
Yeah. So it was about 9.5 feet as it sank in there for the goal. So Karwatka gets his second goal of the game. And that pretty much puts it out of reach. That goal scoring at 1 minute and 15 seconds to go. Patterson Mill now up by 5-2.
Now, I played defense when I was in school and on my team, and I only scored one goal in my career, and it was exactly like that.
Really? But you remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
And that was 40 years ago?
A while ago. And, of course, my mom used to come to the games.
And it was
and
what? It was from 70 yards out, right?
Yeah, right.
It gets longer every year.
Yeah, just like fish stories.
Exactly. Wow, isn't it amazing? And that goal was the difference in the game that won the game for your team. Go on, make it up. Go ahead.
Unfortunately.
I mean, who was alive then? Who saw it? Nobody. So you can just say, yeah, it was the game-deciding goal. 10 seconds. Oh, you have to be honest. I know you are.
Yeah.
I would lie, but you can't. 7 seconds.
I would embarrass Mr. Metzger.
He would probably watch this telecast and say, no way, 2 seconds, 1 second. And the Pattersonville Huskies have won for the second year in a row against the Fallston Cougars. And if you are a senior who played on the team as a junior last year, you can, for the rest of your life, say, hey, we beat Fallston every time we played them. You neglect to say that we didn't beat them the first 15 years of the two schools. So the victory is in the hands of the Pattersonville Huskies. They go now to 1-3 in the league and 2-6. Fallston falls to 1-4 and 4-6. Bob, no goal scored until that last 50-yard kick by Karwatka in the second half for that final 5-2. What do you think of the game?
I thought it was a fairly evenly played game. Just those first 5 minutes of the game really dictated the result. The shot at the end, while it was a great shot, there's always a little bit of luck in something that far away.
Yeah.
On another day, on another field, the result could be different.
Bob, the booth is asking us, I think Travis Karwatka, who scored 2 goals for Patterson Mill, number 24, I believe deserves to get some airtime. Do you see anyone else on the field that you would like to interview in your post-game interview?
Well, I think there were some quality play on both sides of the field. So obviously 24 had a big impact on the game. I thought number 8 for Fallston and number 19 as well showed us a lot of quality touches and control out there.
Yeah, Brendan Mudd, the sophomore, and Will Mayo. Let's, for the booth's sake, let's have Will Mayo from Fallston, and he's number 8, and number 24, Travis Karwatka from Patterson Mill. They will be our post-game interviews if we can catch them. And just appointed my partner, Bob. He didn't realize that, but he'll be doing the post-game interviews, and I'll come in and help do the wrap-up. How's that sound, Bob?
The pressure's on.
So we'll come right back with some post-game interviews. Don't you go away. We'll be right back. 5-2, our final score. Patterson Mill wins it over the Fallston Cougars. We'll be right back.
All right, we're game interviews from the Patterson Mill Fallston High School boys soccer game played here at Aberdeen High School. With us is Will Mayo from Fallston, and we've got Travis Karwatka from Patterson Mill. Final score was 5-2 Patterson Mill, but I don't think it was necessarily indicative of the play that we saw. I think both teams played very well. Will, get some impressions on what you thought, how the game went?
We didn't connect all the passes we wanted to, and we just couldn't really put the goals in. And that's just how the game went, kind of.
Yeah, you guys found yourself in a kind of a deep hole early on. There were 3 quick goals scored by Patterson Mill in the first 5 minutes. How does that affect you going forward in the rest of the game?
Pretty skittish in the beginning after that happens, and then we just couldn't get all the goals in that we wanted to.
Well, I noticed the rest of the half, actually, you guys scored 2 goals to Patterson Mill's 1, so you were really kind of in it. Just one more goal, and would have been a real barn burner there for a while.
Yeah. As soon as the second half started, we kind of just didn't have the momentum we did in the first half, and we just kind of nobody scored, and at the end they got their last goal in.
Okay. Well, you can't say that it wasn't an entertaining game because I saw a lot of good skill out there. So, how many more games you have left to play, and what are your prospects?
I'm not too sure how many games we have left, but I know for our senior night we're playing Bel Air. I'm getting excited for that, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, even though it's a loss, lessons learned, and so I know you have a fairly young team as well.
Yeah.
And so these are learning experiences that prepare you for a run at the playoffs. Hopefully, you'll get hot and you can go deeper there.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. We have Travis Karwatka. He's with the Patterson Mill team. You scored 2 goals tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Well, we have been having trouble scoring, so it was just good to break that streak for us.
Okay. So did you have any particular strategies going in? I know that you scored 3 goals really quick. Was that something that you strategy the coach said that you wanted the plays to do?
Not really a strategy. We've just been having trouble finding the back of the net, so we just got everyone up before the game, and then we were able to go up early.
Okay, terrific. So I understand you were with the team last year. You won a state championship.
Yes, sir.
And you're also on the championship team in lacrosse as well. 2 years
Yes.
running, right?
Yes.
And so that's a pretty significant accomplishment. So same thing. You've got a few more games ahead. Maybe you have some good competition. And the same thing. You lost a lot of players from last year's team. You got a young team. You as a senior on this team, I guess it kind of falls on your shoulders to be the mentor and provide leadership for some of these young players to keep a program alive that's demonstrated some real quality over the past few years.
Yeah, we're just keeping the team bonded and then make sure no one gets their heads down after a loss or anything, and just make sure that we get up for the next game and just learn a lesson from a loss or like a loss in a close game like we had Tuesday.
Yeah, well, you know that the season ends on one date, but a new season begins with the playoffs. And you guys have managed to get far in the playoffs every year, and hopefully that you'll continue to have some success there.
Yeah, hopefully we'll go back-to-back this year.
That'd be nice. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, guys, we'll let them go ahead and catch the buses. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Travis, one quick question. You made a goal from 50 yards out. Have you ever made a goal that far?
I don't think so.
Wow. When you hit it, did you think it was in?
I thought I was going over the goal, honestly. I did not think that was going to drop.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring my partner back in. Bob, come back in. Let's wrap this game up. I want to make one correction. We gave you the wrong Fallston score at 13:57. That first Fallston goal was scored by Chase Adamak. So correct that at 13:57. You talked about their first 3 goals: Cameron Dawson, Ethan Schultz, and Dylan Goff scored the first 3 goals. Again, within 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, they're up 3-0. I don't think I've seen a soccer game between 2 evenly matched teams where one team scored 3 goals in a matter of less than 5 minutes.
No, that's pretty unusual. I think Will alluded to the fact that maybe they just weren't there yet. They weren't prepared, and so the ball bounces in a funny way. And Patterson Mill took advantage of the opportunities they had early on, and it was, I think, the deciding factor in the game.
And Will talked about that second half. They came out. They had momentum. They had cut the score down to 4-2. So they needed to get that other goal that would have put them close enough to make it a real tough game. Put some pressure on did I say C Milton right? Patterson Mill, but they couldn't get that third goal to make it 4-3, and then that goal by Karwatka. Again, I don't know. I have not seen a goal from that far out. It was just a kick that was a beautiful thing if you're Karwatka, because he thought it was going to go over just the right height to get over the goalie, who, is maybe 5'8", 5'9", and he couldn't have leaped 10 feet to knock that down.
Sometimes they say the ball has eyes, and I think that was the case there.
Yeah. Bob, it was a great game. We enjoyed it. The Patterson Mill Huskies winning again. They have now defeated Fallston 2 years in a row. The only 2 victories, as we said, in their school history. And so now they go to 1-3, and perhaps they can build upon this, not only for the season, but for, as you said, the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's important for kids not to get down. These things happen. Sometimes the better team doesn't always win, but you learn, you move forward. The coaches will have an opportunity to talk about what went right, what went wrong, and they'll build on that. And hopefully those are the kinds of mistakes or improvements that they need to make that'll help them get to the playoffs and make a decent run in the playoffs.
And we talk about Patterson Mill. Yes, they've lost 6 games, but 5 of the 6 they've lost by 1 goal each, including that 2-1 double overtime heartbreaker to North Hartford. So there's a lot of hope for not only the playoffs, but for the rest of the season, especially for Patterson Mill.
Yes, and I think it's says something about the fact that they're young and they're that close and they're involved in the games. Even if they don't go far this year, that speaks volumes and really lays the groundwork for going forward. Like we said, the Patterson Mill team from last year, they graduated 13 players, and that tells you that they were a group that stayed together for quite a period of time, and this team has the same opportunity to do that with so many young players on it.
Absolutely. 13 graduates and 2 transferred, so they lost 15 total players off that state championship team. Travis Karwatka, of course, one of the captains whom you met, a senior leader. We talked off air about how's it feel now to be the senior, being the guy that everybody looks to, and he takes that role on, with a great deal of enthusiasm, because he remembers being that underclassman who looked up to the seniors. So he's playing a good role. And again, a great game for Patterson Mill. They come to Aberdeen. It is their home game. They win it. They defeat Fallston, one of their arch rivals, and they can now get their first win in the Chesapeake Division. So, a great win for Patterson Mill.
Yes, a great win. Hopefully they'll build off of that and continue to move forward. While it was a loss for Fallston, I think they have a lot of positives they can take away from this match.
We talked about the first 3 goals, the last 2 goals, as you saw, Travis Karwatka scoring 2 of them. Brendan Mudd scored the other goal for Fallston. And so our final score, 5-2 from Aberdeen High School. It is the Patterson Mill Huskies winning over the Fallston Cougars. Bob Frisch, thank you so much for being with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Don. I appreciated the opportunity.
Very nice. Well, again, thank you for tuning in. For my partner, Bob Frisch, I'm Don Morrison. 5-2 our final score. Patterson Mill wins it. Good night, everyone.